Alright friend, you're going to want a number 1 or smaller Phillips. I would recommend removing the mud flaps, the fenders. You want a 5mm hex for these 2 bolts. You're gonna loosen these 2, then you're gonna go ahead and remove, I'm assuming if you have the same thing, the black spacers, and it should look a lot more even. You see the top of my pads are pretty much the top of the disc. Be careful when you put it back in. Alright, next thing you want to do, get your 5mm hex, and you could undo these bolts here. Before you do that, have a look at your gapping, your space, and get an idea of where you've got to move it, how high or how low you've got to move it. That's determined by these spacers under here, and how far in and out you've got to move it as well. Once you have them loose or off, take them off if you need to remove some spacers. I'm not going to take that off. I've already moved the spacers I needed. I removed and then you can go ahead and check up here. So if you take a look carefully, sorry about the train, guys. See, with spacers on, it's sat higher, giving me not utilizing the pad properly. See that? So I removed one of the spacers for the 010X, and it's kind of sitting perfectly. And then I had to properly position the caliper, the in and out position. So I'm going to go ahead and get this aligned. Just kind of using my hands to hold it in place. Okay, so I feel a little bit of rubbing right now. So I'm going to go ahead and relieve a touch of space. Be very, very cheap with the space that you give it. Very fine tolerances. Okay, that looks like there's no rubbing there. And then if I pull the brake, I'm going to have a look at it. Should only move the outside. Yeah, that's pretty good. Get yourself a good set of Allens. You really don't want anything rounding. You don't want it stripping, rounding, damaging your bolts or damaging your tool. Sometimes the bolts could be harder than cheap Chinese tools. These are just a set of Husky. Be aware, if you're using this ball and cup style, be aware that it's lining up properly, like it's centralizing itself, as opposed to getting offset. Okay, so I went ahead and tightened it, but everything's off, so I got to readjust it while it's semi-tight. It'll be easier to adjust it with it semi-tight. You want to make sure that these are tight when you put them back. You want to mess around with your brakes. You want to do a proper job. I don't recommend even doing this yourself. unless you know what you're doing. You know what? I don't recommend anything. This video is just showing you options. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm not telling you to do anything. You don't have to do anything. You know, don't care so much. Just these are options. You have the option to do what I'm doing here if you want. All right, let's have a look. Okay, so if we have a look here, there is a gap between my disc and my outer pad, and barely a gap between my disc and my inner pad, but there's no rubbing, so there is space there. And then when I go ahead and pull the brake lever, it should only move the outside pad, yeah, towards the disc. You see that? The disc, oh, the disc is moving a little. I gotta readjust that. I don't like that. Anyway, so that's what you want to do. That's what you want to get, so that the disc really isn't moving, and you're getting a smooth braking performance that way. It's also now 100% on the disc, so I'll wear that in and show you guys at some point.